Right now, someone is using information about you to get ahead while you're giving yours away for free. Every text you send, every post you share, every digital breadcrumb you leave behind is being collected, analyzed, and weaponized by people who understand what Niccolo Machiavelli knew 500 years ago. Information isn't just power. It's the ultimate currency in a world where everyone else is spending theirs recklessly. Here's what's happening while you sleep. Your data is being harvested by corporations who sell it to the highest bidder. Your personal details are being cross-referenced to predict your next move before you even know what it is. Meanwhile, the people at the top guard their own information like state secrets, while encouraging you to share everything in the name of authenticity and connection. But what if you flip the script? What if instead of being the product, you became the strategist? Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to teach people how to be nice. He wrote it to teach them how to win in a world where the stakes are life and death. Today's digital battlefield might not involve literal armies, but the principles remain devastatingly effective. The most successful people in business, politics, and personal relationships aren't necessarily the smartest or most talented. They're the ones who understand information asymmetry. They know when to reveal and when to conceal. They've mastered the art of learning everything about others while giving away nothing about themselves. They've turned privacy into their competitive advantage and curiosity into their secret weapon. Number 1. The digital confessional strategy. There's something happening right now that would make Machiavelli both fascinated and horrified. Millions of people are voluntarily walking into what I call digital confessional booths every single day. They're sharing their deepest fears, their relationship problems, their financial struggles, their career ambitions, and their personal weaknesses with complete strangers. But here's the twist that most people miss completely. The smartest players in this game aren't the ones talking. They're the ones listening. While everyone else is competing for attention by oversharing, a select few have discovered something far more valuable. They've learned how to become digital priests, collecting confessions without ever having to give their own. Think about the last time you scrolled through social media. How many people did you see broadcasting their problems, their plans, their victories, and their failures? Now think about this question. Who was asking the right questions to get them to share all that information? Who was the person they felt comfortable enough to confide in? That person just gained massive strategic advantage while appearing to do nothing at all. This is exactly what separates amateurs from masters in the information game. Amateurs think the goal is to get as much attention as possible. They post constantly, share everything, and wonder why their lives feel so exposed and vulnerable. Masters understand that attention is actually a liability. The real power comes from being the person others seek out when they need to talk. But there's a specific way to create this dynamic, and it's not what you think. It's not about being fake or manipulative. It's about understanding human psychology at its most fundamental level. People have an overwhelming need to be heard and understood. When you become genuinely skilled at listening and asking the right questions, people will naturally gravitate toward you with information they wouldn't share with anyone else. The key is learning to resist the urge to reciprocate immediately. When someone shares something personal with you, your natural instinct might be to share something equally personal back. This is a massive mistake. Instead, you want to acknowledge what they've shared, ask thoughtful follow-up questions, and gradually build a reputation as someone who can be trusted with sensitive information. Here's what this looks like in practice. Instead of posting about your own challenges, you ask others about theirs. Instead of announcing your plans, you inquire about other people's goals. Instead of seeking validation, you offer it to others. Over time, you become the person everyone turns to when they need advice, want to vent, or need someone to help them think through important decisions. The strategic advantage this creates is enormous. You start to see patterns in how people think and behave. You understand their motivations, their pressure points, and their decision-making processes. You know who's struggling with what, who's planning what moves, and who has what resources available. All of this information comes to you naturally because you've positioned yourself as a trusted confidant. Meanwhile, your own plans remain private. Your vulnerabilities stay protected. Your strategies develop in secret while you gather intelligence about everyone around you. You're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, and they don't even realize the game has started. This is strategy number 1 out of 5 that will completely transform how you handle information in the digital age. Master this first principle, and you'll never see social media, workplace conversations, or personal relationships the same way again. You'll stop being the person who shares everything, and start being the person who knows everything that matters. Number 2, the information mirage technique. Every spy movie gets this completely wrong, and it's costing you massive opportunities in real life. Hollywood wants you to believe that the best way to keep your plans secret is to never talk about them at all. Lock everything away, trust no one, and operate in complete darkness. This approach might work in fiction, but in the real world it makes you suspicious, isolated, and actually more vulnerable to being discovered. Smart strategists learned something different from Machiavelli's writings. Sometimes the best way to hide something is to put it in plain sight, but surrounded by so many other possibilities that no one can tell which one is real. It's like creating a magic trick where the audience sees everything but understands nothing. Here's what's brilliant about this approach. Instead of acting secretive, which makes people curious and determined to uncover what you're hiding, you appear completely transparent. You share your plans freely and openly. The catch is that you share multiple different versions of your plans to different people, and only one of them is actually true. Imagine you're planning to leave your current job and start your own business. The traditional approach would be to tell absolutely no one until you're ready to make the announcement. But this creates problems. You can't test your ideas, you can't gauge reactions, and you can't get valuable feedback that might improve your strategy. The mirage technique solves all of these problems while giving you additional benefits you never expected. You tell your colleague from marketing that you're thinking about going back to school for an MBA. You mention to your neighbor that you've been considering a career change into real estate. You casually drop to your gym buddy that you might move to a different city for better opportunities. Each version contains elements of truth mixed with misdirection. Maybe you are considering additional education, just not an MBA. Maybe you are looking at real estate, but as an investment rather than a career. Maybe you are thinking about relocating, but only after your business gets established. Here's where the real genius emerges. When people think they know your secret, they stop looking for other secrets. They feel like insiders who have special information, which makes them less curious about what else you might be planning. Meanwhile, you get to observe their reactions to different scenarios and gather valuable intelligence about which paths might work best. But the most powerful part of this strategy is what it reveals about your information network. Pay attention to which version of your story comes back to you and how quickly it travels. If you tell your coworker about the MBA plan on Monday and your boss asks you about graduate school on Wednesday, you've just identified a direct communication channel you didn't know existed. This technique also helps you identify who can actually keep information confidential. The person who never repeats what you've shared is someone you can potentially trust with more sensitive information. The person who immediately spreads your story is someone you'll want to be more careful around in the future. The beauty of this approach is that you maintain complete control over the narrative while appearing totally open and honest. People appreciate your transparency. They feel included in your decision-making process, and they never suspect that they're only seeing one piece of a much larger puzzle. You can apply this technique to everything from career decisions and business plans to relationship choices and financial strategies. The key is making each version plausible enough to be believable, while different enough to serve as a tracking mechanism. This is strategy number 2 out of 5, and it's going to change how you think about privacy forever. You don't have to choose between being secretive and being transparent. You can be both simultaneously by mastering the art of strategic misdirection. While everyone else is either oversharing or hiding completely, you'll be controlling exactly what information reaches which people while gathering intelligence about how information flows through your network. Number 3. The reverse intelligence method. There's a fundamental flaw in how most people try to gather information, and it's so obvious that you'll be shocked you never noticed it before. When someone wants to know something, they ask direct questions. When they want to understand someone's intentions, they probe with obvious inquiries. When they're trying to test loyalty or trustworthiness, they create obvious tests that anyone with half a brain can see coming from a mile away. This direct approach fails for a simple reason. The moment someone realizes you're trying to extract information from them, they become guarded. They start choosing their words more carefully. They begin to wonder why you want to know what you're asking about. Your investigation becomes obvious, and obvious investigations yield carefully crafted responses rather than honest insights. But what if you could turn this entire process upside down? What if instead of trying to pull information out of people, you could make them eager to share everything with you? What if you could map your entire social and professional network without anyone realizing they were revealing their connections? The answer lies in understanding a psychological principle that most people completely overlook. Humans have an irresistible urge to correct false information, especially when it's about something they know well. They also love to be the first person to share news, gossip, or updates with someone who doesn't seem to know what's happening. Here's how you weaponize this natural tendency. Instead of asking people what you want to know, you share carefully chosen pieces of incorrect or outdated information about yourself and watch what happens next. The key word here is carefully chosen. You're not spreading random lies. You're conducting strategic experiments designed to reveal specific information about your network. Let's say you want to understand how quickly information spreads through your workplace and who talks to whom. You might casually mention to different people that you're thinking about applying for a position at a specific company. You make sure this information is interesting enough to be worth sharing, but not so sensitive that it could harm you if it spreads. Then you wait and observe. Within days or sometimes hours, you'll start getting feedback. A colleague might approach you with advice about that company. Your manager might schedule a meeting to discuss your career goals. Someone from a completely different department might mention they heard you were job hunting. Each piece of feedback tells you something valuable. You learn who talks to whom, how fast information travels through different channels, and who adds their own interpretation or spin to the information before passing it along. You discover which people can keep information confidential and which ones immediately broadcast everything they hear. But here's the most powerful part of this technique. People who correct your misinformation or share additional details are revealing what they actually know about the situation. When someone says, "Actually, that company just went through a major restructuring last month," they're telling you they have inside knowledge about that organization. You can apply this method to almost any situation where you need intelligence. Want to know who in your friend group is romantically interested in whom? Share some outdated gossip about relationships and see who corrects you with current information. Curious about someone's financial situation? Mention an incorrect assumption about expenses or income in your industry and listen to how they respond. The The beauty of this approach is that you never seem like you're prying or investigating. Instead, you appear slightly out of the loop, which makes people feel helpful and important when they update you with accurate information. They feel good about being your source of knowledge, and you gain valuable intelligence without creating any suspicion. This strategy also helps you identify your most valuable information sources. The people who consistently provide accurate updates and corrections are your natural intelligence network. These are the individuals who pay attention, stay informed, and are willing to share what they know. This is strategy number 3 out of 5, and it completely reverses how you think about information gathering. Stop asking questions and start providing answers. Wrong answers. Watch how quickly the right information comes flowing back to you, along with insights about your network that you never could have gained through direct questioning. Number 4, the strategic ignorance play. Here's something that will completely destroy everything you think you know about appearing smart in conversations. For your entire life, you've probably been trying to demonstrate how much you know, how quickly you understand complex situations, and how intelligent you are compared to everyone around you. This approach is not just ineffective for gathering information, it's actually counterproductive and potentially dangerous to your strategic interests. Smart people love to feel smart, but they love even more to feel smarter than the person they're talking to. When you walk into a conversation appearing to know everything, you immediately trigger defensive behavior in others. They become competitive rather than collaborative. They guard their knowledge instead of sharing it. They start looking for ways to prove you wrong rather than opportunities to help you understand. But what happens when you deliberately appear less informed than you actually are? Something fascinating occurs in the human psyche. The other person's ego gets activated in the most productive way possible. They feel intelligent, helpful, and important. They assume you need their guidance, their expertise, and their insider knowledge. Most importantly, they start explaining things in much greater detail than they would if they thought you already understood the situation. This is where strategic ignorance becomes a powerful weapon for information gathering. When people think you don't understand the full picture, they over-explain. When they over-explain, they reveal motivations, concerns, and details they would normally keep to themselves. They tell you not just what they think you need to know, but everything they think is important about the situation. The key is knowing exactly how ignorant to appear. You can't seem completely clueless, because that makes you appear incompetent and people won't take you seriously. You also can't seem too knowledgeable, because then they won't feel the need to educate you. The sweet spot is appearing intelligent enough to understand their explanations, but uninformed enough to need comprehensive background information. Here's how this looks in practice. Let's say you're in a business meeting discussing a potential partnership with another company. Instead of demonstrating that you've already researched this company extensively, you might say something like, "I'm not familiar with their recent performance. Could you help me understand what makes them attractive as a partner?" This simple question, asked by someone who appears genuinely curious rather than ignorant, will often result in a comprehensive download of information. You'll learn about financial performance, internal challenges, key personnel, strategic priorities, and competitive positioning. You'll discover concerns that weren't mentioned in the original proposal and opportunities that weren't obvious from your external research. The person providing this information feels helpful and important. They're demonstrating their expertise and insider knowledge. They have no reason to be suspicious of your motives because you're asking them to teach you rather than trying to extract specific pieces of sensitive information. This technique works especially well in personal relationships. When someone is dealing with a complex situation, instead of immediately offering solutions or demonstrating that you understand their problem, try asking questions that encourage them to explain their thinking process. "I'm not sure I understand all the factors you're considering. Could you walk me through how you're thinking about this?" People will often reveal much more than they intended because they're focused on being thorough in their explanation rather than being strategic about what they share. They'll tell you about conversations they've had with others, options they've considered and rejected, and concerns they haven't mentioned to anyone else. The psychological principle behind this strategy is that people have a deep need to feel competent and valuable. When you give them an opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and expertise, they often become generous with information they would otherwise keep private. But there's an important ethical consideration here. This technique should be used to better understand situations and people, not to manipulate or harm others. The goal is gathering information that helps you make better decisions and build stronger relationships, not exploiting vulnerabilities or taking advantage of people's willingness to help. This is strategy number 4 out of 5, and it requires you to completely flip your approach to conversations. Stop trying to impress people with how much you know, and start impressing them with how well you listen and learn. Your strategic ignorance will become their educational opportunity, and their desire to teach will become your information advantage. Number 5. The digital archaeology advantage. Most people research other people like they're reading yesterday's newspaper. They check recent social media posts, scan the first page of Google results, and maybe glance at a LinkedIn profile. Then they think they understand who they're dealing with. This surface-level approach misses the most valuable information completely and puts you at a massive disadvantage in any important interaction. Real strategists understand that people's digital history tells a completely different story than their current online persona. The person someone was 3 years ago, the opinions they held 5 years ago, and the challenges they faced 7 years ago reveal patterns of behavior, decision-making, and character that their recent posts carefully hide or misrepresent. Think about your own digital footprint for a moment. The person you were posting about 3 years ago is probably quite different from who you present yourself as today. Your priorities have shifted, your opinions have evolved, and your circumstances have changed. But those old posts, comments, and interactions are still out there, creating a detailed psychological profile for anyone smart enough to look deep enough. Here's what most people don't realize about digital archaeology. The internet never truly forgets anything. Even content that appears to be deleted often exists in cached versions, archived snapshots, or cross-posted copies on other platforms. Comments on other people's posts from years ago reveal authentic reactions and unguarded opinions. Old forum discussions show how someone responds under pressure or when they think no one important is watching. This historical information gives you predictive power that current information simply cannot provide. When you understand someone's pattern of decision-making over time, you can anticipate how they'll likely respond to new situations. When you see how they've handled challenges in the past, you can predict their behavior under stress. When you track their relationships and career moves over several years, you can identify their priorities and motivations with remarkable accuracy. The practical application of this strategy is enormous. Before any important business meeting, spend time researching not just the company's recent performance, but how the key decision-makers have communicated about similar situations in the past. Look for patterns in their language, their concerns, and their decision-making criteria. Check their social media history during previous challenging periods to understand how they respond to pressure. Before entering into any significant personal relationship, understand that person's history of relationships, communication patterns, and how they handle conflict. This isn't about being creepy or invasive. It's about making informed decisions based on behavioral patterns rather than just current presentations. The beauty of digital archaeology is that it reveals authentic behavior rather than curated presentations. When someone posted a frustrated comment on a friend's Facebook post 3 years ago, They weren't thinking about how that comment might be analyzed by future business partners. When they shared their genuine reaction to a news event 5 years ago, they weren't crafting a personal brand message. These unguarded moments reveal personality traits and values that are much more reliable than carefully constructed recent content. But there's also a defensive aspect to this strategy that's equally important. If you can research others' digital history, they can research yours. This means you need to conduct regular digital archaeology on yourself. Go back through your own posts, comments, and online interactions from previous years. Identify anything that could be taken out of context or used against you in future situations. This isn't about deleting everything from your past. It's about understanding what information is available about you and how it might be interpreted by people who don't know you well. Sometimes it means clarifying old posts with updated information. Sometimes it means adjusting privacy settings on content that no longer represents your current thinking. The most successful people in business, politics, and personal relationships aren't necessarily those who present the best current image. They're the ones who understand that every digital interaction creates permanent records that will eventually be discovered by people who matter to their future success. This is strategy number 5 out of 5, and it represents the deepest level of information strategy in the digital age. While everyone else is focused on managing their current online presence, you'll be mastering the art of historical analysis and long-term digital strategy. You'll make better decisions because you understand people's patterns, and you'll protect yourself because you understand your own vulnerabilities. These 5 strategies represent a fundamental shift in how you approach information in the digital age. While most people stumble through online interactions, giving away valuable intelligence and missing crucial insights, you now have the tools to operate like a master strategist in every digital encounter. The digital confessional strategy transforms you from someone who overshares into someone others confide in. The information mirage technique lets you appear transparent while maintaining complete control over what people actually know about your plans. The reverse intelligence method turns your network into an information source that eagerly provides intelligence without realizing they're being studied. Strategic ignorance makes others feel smart while revealing far more than they intended. Digital archaeology gives you predictive insights that surface-level research completely misses. Machiavelli understood that information asymmetry determines who holds power in any relationship or situation. These strategies ensure that you're consistently the person who knows more while revealing less. You'll make better decisions because you understand people's true motivations, behavioral patterns, and network connections. The digital age hasn't changed human nature. It's simply created new battlefields where ancient principles of strategy still determine who wins and who loses. Now you know how to win. The next video the algorithm chose for you isn't random. It's your next tactical upgrade. Click it now and continue your silent ascent.